and welcome to Knit Pickers video tutorials. We're located in Prince Edward Island, Canada, in a small community known as Mayfield, which is about 5 kilometers south of Cavendish and a couple of kilometers west of North Rustico on the north shore of the island. Now today we are going to take a look at the rice stitch. Now what I absolutely love about doing these videos and talking to other knitters is that it really doesn't matter if you've only been knitting a short time or if you've been knitting for decades like I have. There's always something new to learn. I had never heard of the rice stitch before, and then a couple of weeks ago at a knitting meeting, one of my fellow knitters, Cheryl, shared this stitch with the group, and I just thought it was so wonderful I had to share it with you. It is super easy, and it's a stunning little design that would be great for sweaters or mittens or hats or pretty much anything. Cheryl was working on a baby sweater that had a combination of cables and the rice stitch. So let's take a look at this, shall we? So here is the rice stitch, and I combined it with the faux cable that we did in last month's video. So this pairs beautifully together because the rice stitch is a 2-row repeat and the faux cable is a 4-row repeat. So shall we get started on this? What I did is I started out with 2 additional stitches at the beginning of the row and 2 extra stitches at the end of the row that are not patterned. Because if you want to do this, say for instance, as a sweater, you'll want to leave some stockinette stitch or plain stitching to do your seaming, to seam your pieces together. So that was the thinking behind what I did with this sample. Other than that, it's a 2 stitch repeat as well. And the setup on this was I added 2 extra stitches, and then on row 1 you purl 1, you knit through the back of the next stitch, purl, knit through the back of the next stitch. In this case, until I got to my cable, where I purled 2 stitches, I did the faux cable work on 2 stitches, purled 2 stitches, and then went back into 1 knit through the back, 1 purl, 1 knit through the back. So shall we give this a go? So I'm just starting out with purling 2 stitches, and that is for seaming purposes if I was doing a sweater and I wanted to seam the pieces together. Whoops, sorry, just split my yarn there. There we go. Now I'm going to start my pattern repeat. So I purl a stitch, and then I knit through the back of this stitch, and purl a stitch, and knit through the back. Now if you've never done a knit through the back of the stitch, let me show you that a little more slowly. That's a purl. So with knit through the back, I bring my yarn to the rear as if I was going to do a regular knit stitch, but instead I'm going in from the right side into the left side on the back of the needle, wrapping my yarn and bringing it through and slipping it off. I bring my yarn to the front, do my purl stitch, bring the yarn to the back, in through the back of the needle from right to left, or I should say in through the back of the stitch, and bring that up. purl in through the back of the stitch from right to left and slip that off. And so here I'm coming to my faux cable, so I'm going to purl 2 stitches, and then I'm not quite ready to do the twist yet, so I'm going to knit these 2 stitches, and then I'm going to purl 2 stitches, and start my pattern again. So again, purling through the back, or knitting through the back of the stitch, and purl the next stitch, and I'll continue doing that to the end of the row, and I'll join you back in a couple of minutes. When I reach the end of the row, I'm going to have an extra couple of purl stitches at this end. So here I am nearing the end of my row. So I just did a purl stitch. I'm going to knit through the back, and then I'm going to purl 3 stitches, because what that's going to do is it's going to match the beginning of the row. Because at the beginning I added 2 extra purl stitches, and then I started my pattern sequence, which was purl 1, knit through the back, purl 1, knit through the back, purl 1, knit through the back. So because it was 2 extra purls and then a purl 1, I wanted to end on this side with 3 purl stitches as well. Then I turn my work, and as simple as pie, the next row, all you do is knit to the end of the row. So I'll join you when I get there. Now, because I added the little faux cable in the center here, when I reached the center 2 stitches of my cable, they were knit on the right side. So those 2 stitches I will purl on the wrong side. And then I'll go back to knitting across to the end of the row. Because with the right stitch portion, your pattern is purl 1, knit in the back, purl 1, knit in the back. And if that's all I was doing and I wasn't doing the cable, the second row would just be knit straight across on the wrong side. But in this case, because I'm adding my cable, the center 6 stitches are purl 2, knit 2, purl 2 on the right side, and on the wrong side, since you're knitting across anyway, it's just the center 2 stitches of that cable that I'm going to purl. And that is it for the right stitch. I'll knit the rest of this row, and I'll get over to the cable, and I'll do a quick recap of the faux cable that we did in the last video as well. So here we are. I'm reaching the center point on the right side again. So all I'm going to do here, my last stitch was knitting into the back. So I purl the stitch, knit into the back of the next stitch, and then to do my cable pattern, I'm purling 2, and for the faux cable, and this is what we covered in the last video, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes below. You knit these 2 stitches together, but don't remove them from your left hand needle. But you've got that extra stitch there. You come into the first stitch and knit through that and slide both stitches off your needle. And then I purl 2, and then I'm going to go back to my rice stitch pattern, which is knit through the back and purl. And I'll do that right until I reach the last 3 stitches, which will be 3 purls, which is going to give me a nice clean edge if I was seaming pieces together. And what you end up with is a beautiful textured stitch to the front. You don't have to do the cable, but I just thought I would show you how beautifully the rice stitch sets off the cable. And on the back, if you're not adding a cable, you're just knitting that whole row straight across. If you are adding the cable, then where you do your cable twist, those stitches would be a purl stitch on the wrong side. And that is all there is to doing the rice stitch. Isn't that a beautiful and sweet little stitch? So thanks for taking the time to take a look at this video tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and that you'll give the rice stitch a try. As I said, it's super easy and it's fun and it's just a pretty little design. And until next time, happy knitting.